In Venezuela, the candidate registration process for the July 28th presidential election continues on its fourth day. In Russia, authorities confirmed the completion of rescue operations at the Crocus Whole City concert hall venue. In Senegal, citizens go to the polls to choose their next president. Authorities expect a high turnout. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the registration process of presidential candidates continues. For more details, our correspondent Gladys Quesada, live from Caracas.
Thank you, Luis, for the time and the contact here in TeleSUR English and from the South, and also the opportunity to explain to our audience what is happening today in Venezuela. As the process of nomination of candidates and the registry of the candidates is going on, this is the fourth day of this process, and in this occasion the first candidate to come here and submit the documentation was Javier Alejandro Bertucci Carrero, who is the candidate running for Esperanza por el Cambio, or Hope for the Change, and that is an evangelical Christian opposition party that has been showing traction also amongst the voters since 2018, when the candidate was the third in that election time. In this occasion, now the National Electoral Council is receiving the registration process for Benjamin Rauseo, who is another candidate for the Conde Party, which is an opposition independent party, and has a short living time in the political life of Venezuela, but is a popular figure because he's also a comedian and an artist here in the country. Also, it is expected that other parties come in here as long as the day rolls on, and this is the information so far. This is what we are having, but what is important that this is the fourth day, and we continue giving the information, and the candidates are submitting digitally first the information that they have to deliver and hand over to the National Electoral Council, and today, after a schedule with the National Electoral Council, they are coming in here in person to deliver the documentation. So far, they are delivering also their government programs and other legal requirements to do the process. This is the information, this is what is happening, and we are expecting for the process to start for Benjamin Rauseo, as we were saying. So this is the information. Back to you.
Thank you, Gladys, for the latest information from Venezuela. We're going to continue now in other news. In Venezuela, as we have been talking, the registration of candidates for the presidential elections of next July 28, 2024 continue today on its fourth day. Last day, yesterday, on Saturday, several organizations with political purposes attended the National Electoral Council in order to submit their candidacy for nominations in view of the presidential elections. According to electoral power authorities, this registration process, which started back on March 24th, will be extended until this Monday, March 25th. Previously, 4 political parties, members of the Grand Patriotic Poll, presented President Nicolás Maduro as candidate, while the opposition political parties go to the National Electoral Council to register their candidacies. LB Samoroso, president of the National Electoral Council, thanked the parties for accepting the provisions of the Republic's constitution.
We are deeply grateful to the political parties, to their candidates who have accepted the provision of the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the laws of our country, and all the regulations of the National Electoral Council to have this electoral process that we are in full exercise with the greatest transparency and maximum participation that we have had in recent times.
Alves Amoroso, president of the National Electoral Council, declared that the people of Venezuela should feel proud to have the best electoral system.
We should also feel deeply proud of having here in Venezuela the best electoral system in the world. There is no other, as has been stated, not by the National Electoral Council, but by all the observers that have come to Venezuela during these last elections, which, by the way, are quite a lot.
In Venezuela, the third Progressive Theater Festival kicked off under the motto of Let Humanity Be Human. A total of 180 theater groups from the host country and another 20 countries of Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America are taking part in this festival, which will run next March 31st with Cuba as guest country. At the opening ceremony, Venezuelan People's Power Minister Ernesto Villegas conveyed a salutation message on behalf of President Nicolás Maduro, saying that despite economic sanctions in Venezuela, cultural rights are prioritized, and that the recently launched mission Viva Venezuela, mi patria querida, Long Live Venezuela, my beloved homeland, to rescue oral theater tradition is an example of that. Let's take a short break now, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Russian authorities confirmed the completion of rescue operations at the Crocus Hall City concert venue following the terrorist attack that killed 133 people and wounded 154 others. Moscow Regional Governor Andrei Vorovyov said that the search for the dead will continue until the debris removal work is completed. He detailed that 50 of the more than 100 dead have been identified, while 107 of the injured remain in hospitals. On the other hand, the Ministry of Emergency revealed that the fire after the terrorist attack affected almost 13,000 square meters of the infrastructure. Russian President Vladimir Putin accused Ukraine of involvement in the terrorist attack against the Crocus City Hall Concert Center in Moscow. The Russian president described the terrorist attack as the country's deadliest in years and praised the work of security forces in rescuing survivors. He also added that the 4 people involved in the attack had been detained while trying to cross the border to Kiev as they were trying to escape. In this regard, Russian President Vladimir Putin denounced the preparation of routes from Ukraine to allow the attackers to cross.
As far as the investigation and the result of this inquiry is concerned, so far we can say that the 4 attackers who hit the people were detained. They tried to hide and were moving towards Ukraine. And according to preliminary data, the roads to cross the border were prepared for them in Ukrainian territory. We have detained a total of 11 individuals.
The Russian president also affirmed that territorialist actions seek to generate anxiety in the citizenship.
We have faced a massive attack on innocent civilians in cold blood. The responsible ones intend to kill. To shoot at our citizens and our children, as the Nazis used to do in the occupied territories. This is a special action to spread the terror, and all those responsible will be punished.
Russian President Vladimir Putin declared national mourning this Sunday, March 24th, after extending his condolences to the families of the victims killed in the attack against a concert hall in Moscow, Russia.
Help is needed for all the families. I convey my condolences, my sincere condolences to all those affected. The whole country offers its condolence. March 24th will be the day of national mourning.
Russian authorities report the arrest of 11 people linked to the terrorist attack in Moscow's Crocus City Hall. The information was communicated to President Vladimir Putin by the head of the Federal Security Service, Alexander Bortnikov. The official said that among those arrested were 4 terrorists who opened fire on people gathered in the Moscow concert hall. Bartnikov added that 4 of the perpetrators of the attack were detained in the province of Bryansk, bordering Ukraine. Additional work is currently being carried out to identify accomplices. In the meantime, the Russian Investigative Committee reported that automatic weapons were found and seized after the inspection of the room. The official representative of Russian Investigation Committee, Svetlana Petrenko, informed the cause of death among the victims of the terrorist attack in Moscow.
The deaths were caused by automatic weapons, bullets, and ammunition. According to preliminary data, the causes of death were gunshot wounds and poisoning with combustion products. Researchers have already begun working with suspects in the crime, who have been detained by security services in Brakskin region, near Ukrainian border.
Let's listen now to one of the survivors of the terrorist attack committed in Moscow.
They were standing at the exit. They saw us. They began to shout at those running back. I fell to the ground. I played dead. They killed the girl next to me. Then I saw the door, but they couldn't close the lock. A while later, I dragged myself to the exit about 3 or 5 meters away, and I realized they were gone.
On Saturday, Russian citizens massively gathered at several blood transfusion centers in Moscow and surroundings to contribute in the recovery of victims after the terrorist attack. According to Russian Ministry of Health, in the first hour of operation at blood banks of Moscow, province received blood from more than 600 donors. According to the authorities, over 100 people were hospitalized after the attack, 5 of them children. In addition, 60 adult patients were said to be in critical condition. In this context, the Nicaraguan government decreed national mourning in solidarity with the Russian people and government after the deadly terrorist attack. In an official statement, the Government of Reconciliation and National Unity of the Republic of Nicaragua declared national solidarity mourning for Sunday, March 24th, in rejection and condemnation of the terrible terrorist attack in Moscow that took the lives of more than 150 Russian citizens and left hundreds more wounded. The statement added that Nicaragua expresses its deep, sincere and fraternal condolences to all that brave people of Russia and to its president, Vladimir Putin. Also, the national flag will fly at half-mast during that day, March 24th, a day of solidarity with the Russian Federation. We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In Brazil, President Lula da Silva launched in late February the Democratizing Federal Government Property Program with the aim of reducing the existing house deficit. Our correspondent Mir has the latest on the matter.
On February 26th, Brazil's President Lula launched a new program called Democratizing Federal Government Property, which calls for transformation of 483 abandoned government buildings and vacant government land plots into social housing. This week in Recife, after identifying a vacant property that was not on the list, the Movimento de Luta nos Bairros, or Neighborhood Struggle Movement, coordinated a group of 500 homeless families to occupy it.
Recife has a housing deficit of over 71,000 units. These families come from neighborhoods like Afogados and Engenho de Medio, and they have been holding meetings for months with the goal of owning their own houses. We occupy this field after identifying that it belongs to the Federal University and has been abandoned for over 30 years.
Brazil's 1988 constitution stipulates that all property must have a social function. This makes the practice of land banking, or holding vacant property for years for the purpose of real estate speculation, as many universities in the global north do, illegal. The MLB believes that by occupying, it can pressure the federal government to expropriate the land from the university and provide deeds and financing so that residents can build their own houses.
There are a lot of families who have nowhere to live. They have low incomes and they live in disaster risk areas. So when there are plots of land that are not being used, we have to occupy them. We have to occupy them to guarantee the right to housing for these families.
Brian Mir, TeleSUR, Recife.
In Senegal, citizens go to the polls to choose their next president. Authorities expect a high turnout. Over 7 million voters registered to participate in the election day. The candidate for the ruling party, Amadou Ba, and opposition Bassirou Diomaye Faye are favorites to contest the presidency among 19 registered candidates. The elections are held after the serious crisis resulting from the postponement of the vote declared by outgoing President Macky Sall, which led to strong protests that were repressed and claimed the life of at least 4 people. Citizens who go to the polls stress the importance of not failing to vote on this day in which they choose the future of the country. Palestinian authorities reported the murder of over 130 journalists by Israeli occupation forces in Gaza Strip since October 2023. The media office of the Gaza government reported that at least 3 journalists were killed in the last hours by Israeli regime troops. They are 2 photojournalists, one of whom was also a producer. The third one was a news anchor for religious programs. Palestinian authorities denounced the constant attacks by Tel Aviv's army against the press and media, which seek to show the truth of its genocide in Gaza. They also blamed the United States and the international community for the lives of media workers and other Palestinians killed by Israel. Also in Gaza, at least 7 civilians were killed by the Israeli occupation army while waiting for humanitarian aid to be delivered. Local sources said Israeli tanks and planes attacked with shells and bombs a group of civilians waiting for aid at the Kuwait roundabout in the city of Gaza. Palestinian authorities have repeatedly denounced Israel's constant attempts to obstruct the arrival of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, putting residents on the brink of starvation. Since October 2023, people in Gaza have been enduring severe shortages of food, water, medicine, and fuel, aside from the 2 million Palestinians displaced within Gaza. In Palestine, 5 children were killed as a result of an Israeli bombardment of a house in the territory of Rafah. Tel Aviv forces launched an attack against a residence in eastern Rafah city, southern Gaza Strip. According to data, in addition to the 5 killed, 7 other children were wounded during the attack. Beyond the bombings, Israel's army keeps up an ongoing blockade against Gaza, which has exacerbated the humanitarian crisis and left the population, mainly children, without access to basic foodstuff and essential medical services. Gazan citizens are calling for a ceasefire in the midst of which children have been separated from parents and other family members. In this context, Chilean citizens of more than 10 cities mobilized in solidarity with Palestine after Israeli bombings and attacks against the Gaza Strip. The demonstrations began at 11 a.m. local time and moved throughout the capital and other cities of the country in rejection of the Israeli siege that has left over 32,000 people dead. Concerning this demonstration, the mayor of Recoleta district, Daniel Jadue, urged Chilean people to express their solidarity to stop the genocide in Gaza. Meanwhile, Vera Baboon, Palestinian ambassador to Chile, denounced that more than 9,000 of the dead are women and warned that the Palestinian population is threatened by Israeli restrictions towards the entry of humanitarian aid. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.